I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're trying out firmware 30 on the AXFX3. This includes a whole bunch of new goodies for bass players. So I've got my late 80s Japanese jazz bass in my hands, and forgive me, I'm mostly going to play with a pick on this video. I like to say it's because I'm really influenced by Phil Lynott, but the reality is that I can't play with my fingers to save my life. Now, this has probably my all-time favorite piece of bass equipment on it, a model of the SansAmp bass driver. It's called the NoAmp Bass DI. Let's just start by hearing the sound of this bass DI. I've got both pickups and the tone control all the way up on here. It's not a terrible DI sound, but it's kind of, I don't know, middle of nowhere. As soon as you turn this SansAmp on, it sounds like a recorded bass tone to me. I love that. It just adds some grunt and some focus to the core tone on there. Before we touch anything in the bass DI though, one thing that I would recommend if you're using low output passive pickups like this, you can go to the input block and you can just boost the output level on there. Let's say if I add 9 dB of gain to that. That's kind of simulating more of what I would be getting if I had some active pickups or a preamp in the bass itself. You could experiment with the amount of gain that you add on there. But one thing that I love with this bass driver in the real world and on the model is you have a blend control on here. So if you really want to turn the drive up and add some grunt, I like turning the bass and the treble up to around, say, 1, 2 o'clock on there. You can play around with the presence. If you want a very modern, bitey bass tone, turn that up. If you want something warmer, turn it down. You could get this super distorted if you wanted to, or you can just use it to add a bit of crunch, but then you can blend back in your DI guitar signal on here. So let's do this. Let's go to the extreme and I'll turn the drive all the way up. Have a listen to what it sounds like, then I'll turn the blend right down and just gradually bring it in. There is a dedicated model of the SansAmp without that built-in speaker simulation, or it's called NoAmp Bass Pre on there. I find the blend works better if you are running this into, say, an SVT amp sim and cabinet, and there is a new SVT Dynacab in there, which is awesome. But if you want to run this just direct with the single drive block in there, keep the blend up near 100% on there and get all your tone from this unit in here. This combines really well, I think, with a compressor on there. I'm just going to use the optical compressor pretty much at the stock settings. I've just turned the level up a little bit so it better level matches it on there. Let's have a listen to the effect of that on there. A great trick if you want for that like Geddy Lee or Steve Harris style bass sound, just add a little bit of dimension chorus at the end of the chain, mix somewhere between 10 and 20%. I find it works a treat. Another bass-friendly update in here is the ring mod and the synth block have a new bass dedicated tracking mode, which will detect lower notes on there. I love using the ring mod as a funky old school octaver. So if you set the frequency multiplier to 0.5 and the pitch tracking on, then use bass tracking mode, you get this really grindy, gritty, like not super accurate, but full of character octave down. Let's hear it. I love it so much. So we'll bypass the ring mod, the comp, and the chorus on here. The other bass-specific DI that has been added on here that I think sounds really great is this Royal Bass DI. So it's based on a Noble bass DI. That's a lot of bass and based in there. But this Noble bass DI is a tube DI on there. And we'll just have a listen to it at the stock settings. So I'm going to reset this block over here. One thing that I like about this is the real unit has a little low cut switch on there. Here we've got a continuous low cut control. But again, this one, just be careful with the level because it can be pretty hot on here. Just makes it sound more like a record ready bass guitar. There's even a model of the bass Big Muff. This is great for your big, filthy doom tones. We will run it into the SansAmp model. What I love about having the bass DI models as drive blocks is if you want to run a guitar preset and just add in a parallel chain through input 2, 3, or 4, a bass drive with, say, the SansAmp model or that Noble model on there, and then a compressor, you're not going to use up much CPU, and your bass player doesn't have to bring a rig either. That way you can also automate things like gain increases for the bass control. When you step on your solo boost, you could make the overall bass tone louder or wider with the dimension chorus, or add some grit to it, or change the EQ by using the channels in there. And I will do a video on this over the next couple of weeks, taking my main live preset in here and adapting it so that you can have a parallel chain for bass guitar on there. But specifically, if you're a guitar player like me and you're always a little bit lost when you're dialing in bass sounds, I'd say start out with the no amp bass DI on there with everything at noon. It just takes a pretty ordinary sounding bass DI and makes it a little bit more record worthy. The Noble in there is great as well. You could play around with the bass specific amp models and the bass Dynacab in there. And again, try like the Dark Glass model or the SansAmp model in there as a drive into it. You can check out my bass preset in the factory presets, which uses 3 parallel chains with a whole bunch of processing on there to make a really gigantic bass tone. But a lot of the time, if you just want like a good rock or pop bass sound, the SansAmp model is going to do the trick on there. Add some compression to even it out. Play around with, say, the funky synth or ring mod or the bass fuzz or the GE7 bass mode that's been added in there. There are loads of goodies for bass players in there. And if you actually can play bass, unlike me, I'm sure you'll be able to get a lot more out of it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you on next week's Tuesday Tone Tip.